Hey, another What I Learned Today. Little tidbits of information that I find useful that I want to share with you. Hopefully you get something out of them too. Today I was thinking about doing a little lighting setup using a technique that is really good for defining a light and a dark side on your object that is accurate to the color of your object. So if you're trying to figure out what color is my shadow, what color is my light, this is some little Photoshop wizardry that you can use to help simplify that process. So I've started with just a random shape of an object and I filled it with a pretty neutral color. It's not too light, not too dark. It's definitely not very saturated. It's sort of just like right in the middle of the color spectrum. And that is accurate to most things in the world. You know, most things aren't super saturated, you know, and the general base color is going to fall somewhere in a neutral range. So you just fill your object with whatever that is. And then we want to have a shadow cast on this from our light source, but we're going to do our shadow first. And for that, we can use a multiply layer. Whoops. And we want to think about, you know, what the color of our shadows are going to be, what the reflected light is. Just for the sake of argument, we're going to say it's going to be in the cool range, cool shadows. That's always a safe bet. And because that's a multiply layer, it's going to, you know, increase the effect of the color over the layers below it. So we want to start pretty light, fill that layer. Now we know that if our ambient light that's reflecting back is in the cooler range, the shadows are going to have this type of effect. This is the color of our object, and then the shading that's going to result from the light hitting it will be having this kind of effect. Now we need to add the light source itself. Cool shadows, we want to start pushing into the warm end of the spectrum for our light. Any old brush, and just for the sake of demonstration, this new layer we want to have be an overlay layer. You can play around with soft light, hard light, even a color dodge depending on what kind of effect you want to do. And I'm just going to cast in a light source. I'm not going to be too particular about what the effect is of the shapes, but when you're using this on a face, a rock, any other kind of object, you want to have in mind what are the shapes, where is the light hitting. I am going to cut a little bit out though in this little random shape just for the sake of demonstration. We can take out our smudge tool and we can soften things if we want to soften the curves around certain objects. This is all just depending on what the actual shape is that you're defining. Now we can use that light shape, the shape that we have that was cast by the light, and we select that, use that as a selection, and then we subtract that from the shadow layer. You see how that got a lot brighter. Now we have a pure light source. Remember, this was the original color of the object. So now we know what the color effect is, what the hue effect is for our light source and for our shadow source. If you enjoyed this, please like and share on whatever social media platform you found this on. In the future, a lot of these will be hosted on my Patreon page. So to access the full spread of what I learned today, please visit my Patreon page for this and lots more great content. See you later.